Hey everyone, Z-Slayer Dre here, and 2020 is finally behind us, so let's take a look back at the best games from last year. If you had asked me before the year started what games I thought would be in the top 5, I would have given you a completely different answer than what we ended up getting. Also, I do have to mention that these are not my top 5 favorite games, but rather the top 5 games in terms of quality, although I'll quickly go over my personal top 5 list at the end. I do have some thoughts on the year in general for the gaming industry, but I'll wait till the end of the video to go for that, so let's get into it. Number 5, Ghost of Tsushima. Sprawling fields of flowers steadily blowing in the wind, quiet coastlines where the shore gently pulls back and forth, and gorgeous cherry blossoms make up the beautiful island of Tsushima. It was such a wonder to explore this work of art created by Sucker Punch. Instead of map markers and waypoints, Ghost of Tsushima used the wind to guide players across the island with a minimal HUD so they could naturally progress through the game. Not to mention the visceral samurai combat where you could go in katana blazing or silently assassinate your targets. Enemy camps had a high level of verticality that allowed you to approach the game however you pleased. The main story was also enjoyable, and while some of the side content was very repetitive, it was still overall a fun experience. The game did suffer from some other issues like a non-functioning camera and unresponsive combat, but when it did work, it was a cinematic feast for the eyes. Sucker Punch has also added in a very in-depth online multiplayer free update that gave players a ton of extra content to enjoy. Surprisingly, Ghost of Tsushima also has become a trophy hunting hit as many players found themselves going for the extremely enjoyable to get platinum trophy. I personally can't wait to play the 60 FPS mode once I can get my hands on a PS5, and I will surely go for the new Game Plus trophy myself. With a few fixes and improvements, I could see Ghost of Tsushima becoming an incredible franchise in the future, and given the success of the game sales-wise, I'm sure we'll be seeing a sequel in a few years. Number 4, Genshin Impact. From one beautiful gaming landscape to another, we come to Genshin Impact at number 4. I found myself completely immersed in exploration in the free-to-play game developed by Miyoho. Whatever you see off in the distance, you can basically run, glide, or climb to in what is maybe one of the best looking and designed game worlds I've ever seen. The game also contains a rather lengthy campaign that can be enjoyed for free that contains wonderfully charming characters and an intriguing storyline. New content and quality of life changes have been routinely added to keep players hooked. Combat has a unique feel to it where you switch between your 4 characters, taking advantage of each party member's elemental attacks to defeat enemies. I was absolutely hooked on this game for a while and look forward to the new continents that will be added in the future. While there's very few issues with the game, unfortunately its monetization scheme is absolutely horrendous and takes away from what is an absolutely amazing game. I won't go into much detail as I've already gone over it in my review of the game, but loot boxes and gambling has no place in gaming. It's such a shame because Genshin Impact is such a wonderful game, and having something like monetization take away so much from the game is a real disappointment. However, it's still an incredibly fun game, and absolutely worth playing through the main campaign, which for the most part can be enjoyed without spending any money. Number 3, Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. A mainline Zelda game developed by a third-party studio? A new Hyrule Warriors? These were two things I would have never expected before Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity was announced, but I am so glad both things happened. Although to be fair, the team behind Breath of the Wild did work closely with Omega Force, which gave way to a very authentic Breath of the Wild experience transferred into the Warriors mold. The combat felt refined and polished from the original Hyrule Warriors, and added in quite a few exciting boss fights. But what really made Age of Calamity special was a strong focus on narrative to complement the compelling gameplay. For one of the first times you could play as Zelda and kick ass as her, but they also showed her vulnerable side, making her a very relatable and interesting character. While the amount of content was significantly less from the first game, what was there was of high quality, and personally, I'll take quality over quantity any day. Sadly, the game suffered from severe performance and resolution issues leading to an unresponsive and stuttery experience frequently. I do hope the Switch programmers are real because being able to play Age of Calamity at 1080p 60 would greatly improve the experience. Regardless, it's still a very fun game to play and will provide any Zelda fan dozens of hours of entertainment. Number 2, Hades. Beautiful 2D art, fast-paced action combat, engaging and immersive storytelling all combined to make one of the best games of 2020. I was taken by surprise by just how well crafted this indie game was made by Supergiant Games. Even the music was a perfect fit, ranging from slow melodic at Zagreus' home to the adrenaline-pumping bass in battles. Hades is also one of the shining examples of how to do early access properly, as the game released in a finely tuned and well-polished manner. It still baffles me how a small indie studio can create such a fun game that I encountered zero technical issues with, while big AAA studios continue to release buggy, broken games that cost hundreds of millions of dollars to make. Honestly, my only real complaint is that I wish there was more of it, but as I said earlier, give me quality over quantity any day of the week. That being said, the content is highly replayable and you can also unlock additional story after beating the game the first time. Despite being in the niche genre of roguelite, Hades has been able to connect with over 1 million players, and almost everyone seems to agree it's an incredible game. I really can't recommend it enough. Number 1. Yakuza Like a Dragon. At number 1 sits another game that took me completely by surprise. I had never played a Yakuza game before Like a Dragon, and I was completely taken in by the humor, compelling characters, and finely tuned combat system. And the minigames. You can't forget about the minigames when talking about a Yakuza game. Ryuga Gotoku Studio took a huge gamble in turning their action brawler into a turn-based RPG, and it absolutely paid off. I don't think I've ever played any RPG that had combat difficulty finely tuned to near perfection quite like Yakuza Like a Dragon. Not to mention the new main protagonist Ichiban, who is extremely charming and impossible to dislike, along with his ragtag party of misfits that join his quest along the way. The story was a little on the cliche side, but the characters were so written and likable it almost didn't matter. The open world was densely packed with a near unlimited amount of content, and featured one of the best trophy lists I've seen this year. While turn-based combat isn't everyone's cup of tea, it's so well done in Like a Dragon, it will probably win over some of those people. Ichiban is a huge Dragon Quest fan, so when he gets into fights, he simulates turn-based combat in his head based on his actions in the fight. This leads to an incredible variety of moves ranging from a spinning breakdancing kick to an orbital laser that decimates enemies. This game also boasts hundreds of hours of content along with New Game Plus, so players will have a ton of high-quality content to enjoy. Well, that does it for the best games of 2020. I have to say, even though I started later into the year, I had so much fun reviewing games last year, I can't wait to get started on 2021's games. It was almost a tie between Hades and Yakuza Like a Dragon for the top spot, but Like a Dragon just inched out Hades due to its staggering amount of high-quality content. Like a Dragon is one of the few examples I can think of that has both quality and quantity. But of course, which game you prefer will kind of come down to personal preference, and you can't go wrong either way. Both games seem to go on sale often now, so you can get either at a discounted price, although they are still worth it at full price regardless. As far as this year in games goes, it was definitely different than most years. Console release years are usually light on big ticket games, and we had certain world events that just threw everything off as well. It was a weak year overall, and while the top 2 games were very good, they feel more like top 10 games than top 5 games. We have seen the continual downward spiral of the gaming industry, and outside of 2018, it seems like it gets worse and worse each year. Quite a few games released completely broken like Cyberpunk 2077 and Marvel's Avengers, and there really doesn't seem to be any end in sight to that practice. However, seeing smaller studios like Ryuga Gotoku Studio and Supergiant Games release such well-made games gives me hope for the future. I think we will start to see smaller and mid-tier sized studios that do focus on making a quality experience for their customers start to get more and more attention, while studios like Ubisoft, EA, and Activision will start to lose customers. At least I hope that's what will happen anyways. Of the big publishers, I do think Nintendo has the most potential, but you never know with them. As far as my top 5 goes, it would probably be Gears Tactics, Age of Calamity, Hades, and then a tie between Yakuza and Genshin Impact, although if I did have to choose a top game, it would probably be Yakuza Like a Dragon. I have no idea what games will be on the 2021 list, as many games have an uncertain future due to delays from last year. Hopefully we get a few good titles, and while we can make a few educated guesses, we still do not know any big titles confirmed by Nintendo so far. Also, let me know down in the comments your personal top 5 games of the year as well. If you did enjoy the video, now is a great time to subscribe and make sure you hit the like button. I'm currently working on a Hitman 3 review at the moment, so that should be out shortly. Thanks for watching, I'll see you in the next video.